Science. The many wonders of Egyptian civilization were shaped by their advancements in science. They observed the sky, gaining knowledge about navigation, seasonal changes, and the passage of time. They created the solar calendar we use today, dividing the 365 days into 12 months and celebrating the remaining 5 days as festival days. By controlling floodwaters and developing irrigation systems, they advanced their understanding of mathematics and geometry, and through the construction of the pyramids, they discovered a formula for the value of pi mummification techniques, demonstrated the Egyptians' advanced medical knowledge, which also benefited from accidents occurring during pyramid construction. The Egyptians had musical knowledge as well. While they didn't invent the 7-note scale, they knew how to use it, as seen in the bas-relief artworks that have survived to this day. In technology, medicine, and mathematics, ancient Egypt maintained a relatively high standard of productivity and versatility. The Egyptians created their own alphabet and decimal system, illustrating their ingenuity. Faience and glass objects of the New Kingdom period. Even before the Old Kingdom, the ancient Egyptians developed a glass material known as faience, which they regarded as a semi-precious stone. Faience, a non-clay ceramic, was made from silica, silicon dioxide, a small amount of lime, calcium oxide, and soda, sodium oxide, with copper used as a colorant. This material was used to make beads, tiles, figurines, and other small items. Various methods could be used to produce faience, but the typical technique involved applying a powdered material onto a clay core, which was then fired. The Egyptians also produced a pigment known as Egyptian blue for use in these works. The ancient Egyptians demonstrated considerable skill in producing a wide variety of glass objects. However, it is unclear whether they independently carried out the entire production process. It is not known if they manufactured raw glass themselves or imported it in ingot form for further processing. Despite this, they had technical expertise in creating glass objects and knowledge of adding minerals to achieve different colors. They could produce glass in yellow, red, green, blue, pink, and white, as well as make both transparent and opaque frosted glass. Medicine. Circumcision practices. The medical issues that ancient Egyptians dealt with were directly related to their environment. Living near the Nile brought risks such as malaria and schistosomiasis, which caused liver and intestinal damage. The presence of potentially aggressive wild animals like crocodiles and hippos was a general threat. Lifelong heavy labor resulted in severe joint and spinal pressure, leading to traumatic injuries. Wars also placed significant stress on the population. The small but hard particles in their flour caused tooth wear and made them susceptible to abscesses, though cavities were rare. The wealthy consumed sugar-rich foods, leading to gum disease. Despite tomb wall paintings depicting ideal body structures, the prevalence of overweight child mummies in the tombs of the affluent indicates widespread overnutrition. The life expectancy for adults was around 35 years for men and 30 years for women. But reaching adulthood was difficult, with a third of the population dying in childhood. Ancient Egyptian physicians were renowned for their healing skills throughout the ancient Near East. The most famous among them was Imhotep. Herodotus noted that Egyptian medicine was highly specialized, with some doctors focusing only on the head or stomach, and others being ophthalmologists or dentists. Medical institutions, such as the Per Ankh or House of Life, were established, particularly in places like Per Bast, Bubastis, during the New Kingdom, and in Abydos and Sais during the late period. Medical documents unearthed from these sites show the Egyptians' experimental knowledge of anatomy, diseases, and practical treatments. Wounds were treated with honey-soaked bandages to prevent infection, as well as with raw meat, linen bandages, nets, and pads. Pain was alleviated using opium and belladonna. The earliest records of burn treatment involved applying breast milk from women who had borne sons to the affected area. prayers to the goddess Isis were made, and moldy bread, honey, and malachite were used to prevent infections from burns. Garlic and onions were used for health benefits and were believed to help asthmatic patients. Egyptian surgeons sutured wounds, set broken bones, and amputated diseased limbs, though some illnesses were too severe for them to treat, and they accepted that they could only make patients comfortable until death. Shipbuilding, a ship model from Giza. By 3000 BCE, the ancient Egyptians knew how to place planks inside a ship's hull. According to a report by the American Institute of Archaeology, excavations in Abydos have uncovered the remains of 14 ships, the oldest of which have yet to be excavated. The ship that was excavated was constructed by sewing wooden planks together. Egyptologist David O'Connor from New York University discovered that woven straps were used to bind the planks together and that reeds or dry grasses were used to seal the joints. The ship was found buried intact near Pharaoh Khafre's tomb, suggesting that they might have belonged to him. However, one of these ships dates back to the 3000s BCE, and the pottery associated with the ships indicates even earlier dates. The boat, believed to have been built in the 3000s BCE, is about 23 meters long and is now thought to have belonged to an earlier pharaoh. According to Professor O'Connor, it is even possible that this 5,000-year-old boat belonged to Pharaoh Horaha. Additionally, the ancient Egyptians knew how to fasten planks together with wooden dowels. They used resin to seal the joints. The Khufu ship, a 43.6-meter-long vessel, was found under the Great Pyramid of Giza from the 4th dynasty around 2500 BCE. This ship is a well-preserved example, likely symbolizing the solar bark of the sun god. The ancient Egyptians also knew how to make mortise and tenon joints. Despite their advanced shipbuilding techniques, they were not known for building large ships. Their vessels navigated the Nile easily, but they were neither renowned seafarers nor engaged in significant maritime activities in the Mediterranean or Red Sea. Mathematics main article. Ancient Egyptian mathematics. The earliest evidence of mathematical calculations dates back to the pre-dynastic period, specifically the Naqada phase, and shows a fully developed number system. The importance of mathematics for an educated Egyptian is clearly illustrated in a letter novel from the Old Kingdom period, where the writer challenges the recipient to a contest of knowledge in daily calculations concerning land, labor, and grain. The Rind mathematical papyrus and the Moscow mathematical papyrus demonstrate that ancient Egyptians used the 4 basic arithmetic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, as well as fractions. They could calculate the areas of rectangles, triangles, and circles, and the volumes of boxes, columns, and pyramids. They understood basic algebraic and geometric concepts and could solve simple simultaneous equations. Mathematical notation was decimal and based on hieroglyphs. For each power of 10 up to 1 million, a specific hieroglyphic symbol was used, and these symbols could be repeated as many times as needed to write the desired number. For example, to write the number 80 or 800, the symbol for 10 or 100 would be written 8 times. Because their calculation methods could not handle large fractions, the ancient Egyptians expressed fractions as the sum of several smaller fractions. For instance, the fraction 2/3 was represented as the sum of 1/2 and 1/6. This process was facilitated by a standard table of values. However, some simple fractions were written with specific hieroglyphs. The hieroglyph for 2/3, for example, is shown on the side. Ancient Egyptian mathematicians had an understanding of the principles underlying the Pythagorean theorem. For example, they knew that in a right-angled triangle, the sides could form a 3-4-5 ratio. They could also calculate the area of a circle by taking its diameter, subtracting 1/9 of it, and squaring the result. The golden ratio appears in many Egyptian architectural works, including the pyramids. However, this might be an unintended consequence of their practical methods, such as using knotted ropes, combined with an intuitive grasp of harmony and proportion, rather than a deliberate application of the golden ratio. Papyrus is a type of paper made from the stem of the Cyperus papyrus plant, which grows in the Nile Delta in Egypt. The oldest known written papyrus dates back to 2900 BCE and was found in the tomb of Hemaka, a high-ranking official. Papyrus significantly contributed to the development of science in ancient Egypt, and through the writing of medical papyri, has had a lasting impact on modern medicine. Legacy of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt's impact is profound, influencing the Roman Empire through the cult of Isis, obelisks, and Egyptian-style architecture. Historians like Herodotus and Diodorus documented Egypt's mysteries. In the Middle Ages and Renaissance, while pagan Egyptian culture declined, interest persisted among scholars such as Dhul Nun al-Misri. European explorers in the 17th and 18th centuries increased interest by bringing artifacts to Europe, often leading to theft. Napoleon's early 19th century expedition advanced Egyptology with detailed documentation. Today, Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities manages excavations and preservation, focusing on knowledge and heritage.